Hi, and welcome to a brand new episode of Sipping Tea with Suzanne. I am your fabulous host, Positively Suzanne. I am excited to be in the studio. I shared my lineup for May, and I'm really excited because I have with me Miss Ivette Olmeda. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Suzanne. How you doing?
I'm really, really good. How are you?
Very good and happy and glad to be here with you.
Yes, thank you. I feel very honored and privileged that you said yes to being on the show. I've wanted to chat with you for a long time because, since I started being very active in the community, I've seen you, at so many different community events, making such an impact, making a difference, and doing so many wonderful things. And I wanted to get the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. So thank you for saying yes.
Thank you to you. And I remember we planned this for a long time.
Yes.
But it's happening now.
It is finally happened. I personally believe that God is intentional and nothing happens before it's time. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to just sit back and chat and just, talk about what it is that you do. So I'm excited. Welcome.
Thank you again.
All right, awesome. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. For my loyal viewers and subscribers, I truly appreciate you. If you want to catch the show, we're on YouTube on the Positive Vibe Studio. We're on Facebook on the Positively Suzanne, live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. And you can certainly go back and watch the episodes that you've missed. We are going through May, and then we're on season 3, FYI. And season 3 ends at the end of June, and then we'll be on hiatus for 2 months. Then we'll be back in September. But as you know, Sipping Tea with Suzanne is an opportunity for me to chat with just so many phenomenal people throughout the Commonwealth and share their stories, their dreams, and just hoping to inspire you, encourage you, and whatever it's that they do in the community. Certainly would like to connect you if you want to be connected to certain resources. So as I mentioned, you and I, have connected at so many different community events, and you're very active in the community. And, I don't think there's been anything that's been done or said about building the community that I don't see you at or a part of. So I want to say thank you for the work that you do in the community and for the many lives that you touch.
Well, your words actually mean a lot to me. And it's always good to hear, even when you do things from your heart. But it's great when some people just looking at you and send those appreciation words. I appreciate you.
No problem. Anytime. So I wanted to talk with you about what it is you do. So you are the Senior TDI Fellow for Mass Development. So I certainly have a couple of questions because I want to talk to you about, because I really want the audience to truly know what it is that you do. But first, let's hear, what is Mass Development and what is a TDI Fellow?
That's right. Yes. And especially we're going to refer TDI, and the reason is because TDI referred to Transformative Development Initiative. So it's a place-based program from Mass Development from the community division that we have. And it's actually choose a neighborhood that I will, and this is a kind of brief summary, it's a neighborhood that probably underserved in terms of investment. It's have marginalized by low investment in this community, and we choose those neighborhoods to actually help to support the economic development activity. So, and this is what municipality apply for having a TDI district. And if they get that award, they get 3 years commitment where they send a fellow, that's me.
Hi, fellow.
To work in that a small area of the neighborhood. But it's not to do the work from others, because I believe that every community have great leaders. So the role of the fellow is just to add that capacity to work with other community development organizations and helping to get together, because mostly of nonprofit, even municipality, they have small capacity, and having a fellow just kind of bring resources to that neighborhood and start little by little to kind of work in different goals or plans in that area. When a fellow go, it's just more to work with different stakeholders from the area, develop a work plan for 3 years, and summarize that work plan in 5 to 6 goals that we want to accomplish together.
All right. Well, thank you. And what is mass redevelopment?
So it's a state quasi agency.
Mm-hmm.
The headquarters they have it in Boston. They have one here in Worcester. We have Denver's, and then we have one in Lawrence. In terms of where you see more is a land trust bank. So they also have the finance and real estate division. So what you see many years ago, if you hear about mass development, it was just the agency that would lend money for do big housing projects and made possible a lot of bond in forms of lending bonds to have a YMCA renovation. This is examples of many, but now with the community division and the TDI, it's more to focus to be more in the ground of kind of the small neighborhood that need that kind of more attention and need that person to be in the place. So together, there's a lot of resources, because if I know a small business who want to purchase their building where they probably have their business for a long time, maybe they need some help in terms of filling that gap of the money, because sometimes you go to a bank regular, they're not going to give you the 100%. Yeah. So this is when mass development fill that gap, financial or helping to be as a guarantee of to receive that help as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So let me ask you, because community work is intentional work. Community work is hard work. And sometimes it's work without recognition, right? Because you're not doing it, like you said, you have to have a heart for it. So what started your journey in community work, and what truly inspired it? How did you get your start?
So that's a very interesting question, and it's kind of bring me back to reflect what inspired me. So this journey is, like you said, has to be intentional. So for me, coming from Puerto Rico to Worcester, with very limited resources, actually limited resources, but also have the frustration where you have skill, talents, or knowledge, but you don't have the platform to use them, inspire me, or actually help me to, first of all, to be adaptable, because I come into a place to adapt to new culture, language, environment, but that inspired me that I need to be more creative, resilient, and determined a lot. So that experience, I would say, also helped me to understand and see that many others are facing similar struggle. So now I understand, and I believe to have second opportunity or access to resources that sometimes you don't know that existed. A grant, how many small businesses doesn't know, remember? And I think this is when I met you the first time, that tea party. Yeah, so
yes.
Yeah. I do remember that was, if you have a question, how did you met Suzanne, possibly Suzanne? Oh.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, because after you finish, then I'm going to ask, how did we meet? Because I think it's connected to your community work, because like I said, you're at these events and you talk and you connect, but continue.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I think, that experience, it's just made me feel more to understand, like I said, how others feel like that. So I believe that inspired me to build equality opportunities so everybody can have access. I think is the terms that we use, and to be equal. And in the economic development field, it's fair, and we have the moral responsibility to be equitable for everyone.
Absolutely. So. And truly, that is the goal, that it's equitable for everyone, that everyone has the same opportunity. But as you mentioned earlier, if folks don't know about it, they can't go after it, right? Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, I know how we met. How did we meet?
Okay, I spoiled that.
You did. That's okay. Like, you did not. You brought it up. So how did we meet?
Yes. Well, I was invited by a small business who I had the privilege to work with her in my previous district as a fellow.
Yeah.
And she invited me to this tea party, which is, I said, I never been in a tea party. And, you know, she even gave me idea of how to dress. She owned a boutique here in Worcester. Can I say?
Absolutely. We talk about her a lot on this show.
For you bridal shop. And Miss Lorna Ellis was the one that inspired me and said, come, you're gonna love it, and things that, and I feel always a little, I'm introverted and kind of shy to go to new places or again, what is this tea party? How I'm dressing? All these questions. But I remember she even gave me one of those beautiful hats, and which is, I feel uncomfortable at the beginning, but and then obviously the show star was Miss Positive Suzanne, where I met you and you gave me, I never forgot, a powerful message. You encouraged everyone, and everybody was so friendly with me, like they know me. I didn't feel awkward. I just feel like I was part of that.
Well, thank you. You know, honestly, thank you for saying that. Like, the intent behind any of the event is for folks to feel included and loved and empowered. And, you know, I'm going to expand on that a little bit. So, Miss Lorna, when I started to do tea parties, because I love tea parties, right? And I'm like, let's have these tea parties, and we're selling the ticket. And I'm so glad that she invited you. And that's how folks know about you. You came looking lovely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do at these events, I ask women to introduce themselves and what it is that they do and how can we help you. Just say, how can we support you? Whether it's a cheer, it's a prayer, or, you know, talking about your business. And I remember a lot of the women shared that they were small business owners. And you stood up, and instead of sharing about you, you shared, like, there's so many small business owners. Did they know about this grant that was around?
Yeah.
And they didn't, none of them knew. I don't think any of them knew. Yeah. And, you know, you talked about it, and then you offered to tell them about it. And actually, one of them, actually, you met her somewhere and went through that process and this packet with her. And I'm like, then this person deserves to, like, needs to be a part of my circle, because this is, you were, you know, you had an opportunity to talk about you and you didn't, you know, you immediately connected to the folks that were in the room, and you shared resources, and then you also went above and beyond that and, you know, helped them personally with something that was above and beyond, you know, what you were called to do. And you were just at that event to have a great time and, you know, talk about you and celebrate you. So no, thank you for that. And, you know, I'll never forget that. And
me either. And you see, together, collected, we remember the scene, because then after that, one of those small business women, I don't know if we saw in another occasion, or she find my email.
Yes.
That she applied and she got the fund.
She did.
Oh, yes.
She did. Because she did. So she reached out. She's like, what's that woman's name? And your name is beautiful, by the way. It was unusual. I think you were my first. I know Ivette spelled the other way with a Y.
With the Y, yes.
So you were my first Ivette with the I. So I was like, no, I know who. And then she said you met her, like you were you guys went to a church. There was a church that you guys went, and you showed folks. And she did apply, and she did receive that grant. It was her very first grant. Because she didn't know anything about the grant. She didn't know how to fill it out, but you were so gracious. So thank you for that. And it was a tremendous boon to her business. Was able to move her business to the next direction. She was able to, well, we're not going to talk the business, but she was able to purchase something truly crucial for the success of her business. So.
Isn't that feel so great?
It does.
Right? I do feel.
Yeah. So that is it, what you do. So you are so welcome in this community. So thank you for that. Thank you. So my next question is this. So, you know, obviously you are put in communities that has opportunities. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you see face in these communities?
So a lot of the challenge that I see is that many of this community are, again, kind of basically said, disconnected from resources or tool, or even the access or be part of a network. Sometimes they don't have that opportunity to be part of those network events. And And a lot of times you see also buildings that are decayed, a lot of, and they haven't been in business for 20 plus years, but probably there was no, repair or improvement. So, and a lot of those windows covered with paper or with bars windows, which is actually, it's hard for them to detect for a bad perception. And people focus from, especially people from outside, focus in this kind of, vision, and it just doesn't know what is really the good things that happen inside there. So that's what I mentioned, that as a in the TDI program, it's just you go to those neighborhoods that lack of resources or marginalized, but they have a richness in culture or story, diversity, but it's sitting there. And sometimes it's about discover gems that is inside those neighborhoods.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. So someone reached out to our executive producer. I think we had some audio challenges in the beginning when you were explaining what TDI meant, and I guess somebody else wants to know what TDI. So if you don't mind, I'm sorry, repeating what the TDI is.
It's a good practice,
It's
right?
a good practice, right?
Yeah, so the TDI is Transformative Development Initiative Program. It's a base place programs that actually just focus in small neighborhood and a small and I wouldn't say a small neighborhood, it's just a small area to focus. We call the circle of the 5 minutes walk in that area, and we have the map. And it's a reason, it's intentional reason behind. It's just to focus with the extra capacity, which is a fellow, and then also resources that are kind of deployed to that neighborhood to accomplish a lot of things that they want or the needs that they have in that moment.
All right, thank you so much for explaining
welcome.
that. Hope you guys caught that.
Yeah.
So I also have another question, because you talk about such a rich culture in these neighborhoods, right? And the diversity, and obviously when you go to these neighborhoods, it's diverse. So you serve the needs of a plethora of different cultures. So how do you prioritize the needs of individual groups within these communities?
So first, I had to be an actively listener, and I had to be resilient when I'm walking into this neighborhood, different culture. I had to be sensitive because sometimes you don't know if they untrust the government or things like that. And when you show your authenticity, it's more easy to get accepted. But I mean, you have to gain trust, first of all, because without trust, my job, I could not accomplish all the things. And building trust take time.
Yes.
Take time. And some cultures probably was, for me, obviously as a Latina, it's more easy to get into the Latina community. But now I'm working in another district. I work with Middle East culture, which is different. But again, it took me more time to get in that trust, but eventually it's about not assuming solutions for the community without have a fully understanding of what is the need or what if they want and not what we want to plan.
Oh my God, girl. We need that on a t-shirt. That is one of the most profound statement. Because oftentimes when we meet individuals and as problem solvers, right, we think we have the solution. So assuming we know the answer without finding out, without listening, and without involving them.
That is so true. Yes. If you don't invite them to the table and let them decide.
Absolutely.
What do we know? Especially if you don't live in the neighborhood, I mean, it's not up to us to decide what is that solution, or what that kind of program that they need.
Absolutely.
What kind of workshop without seeing and let them decide.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's, like I said, it's truly profound. It's like, when you talk to someone about being Latina, right? And your experience, and they're like, no. Okay.
Yes.
I appreciate your input, but I'm telling you about my experience as a Latino woman. If you're not a Latino woman, your experience is going to be different. Because I have that challenge sometimes, when
Yeah.
I've expressed that, okay, I felt like somebody was just not receptive and they had preconceived
Mm,
notions. And, somebody who is not a black woman will say, no, they didn't mean that. And I said, I appreciate your feedback. But
mm,
what I felt is what I felt. So you
right.
telling me that I misinterpreted or understood wrong is taken away from my experience. So I think
Absolutely.
we have to be open to say we don't know everything. Like I don't know your experience, even though we're both women of color. Your
Mm-hmm.
experience as a Latino is different from mine as a black woman.
That's right.
And I think if we want to build an authentic relationship, and if we're in a position where we need to help each other accomplish something, we have to be willing to listen and says, I can't give Yvette a solution for her life. Yvette can't give me a solution for my life without asking me, what is it that I'm experiencing?
That's right.
And what is it that I
Power,
need?
powerful.
Very powerful. So,
Yeah.
no, thank you for sharing that. We're going to get that on a t shirt somewhere. So, do not take that. No, thank you. So, I wanted to talk because, again, I've seen you in the community, and you've done quite a few projects. So is
Mm-hmm.
there any projects that you felt like you were directly responsible for, or a part of, I should say, because everything is done with a team, right?
Yes.
That you were a part of that you can certainly share, and what are some of the impacts like in the community? What are some of the projects that you have worked on in the community?
Yeah, and thank you for address that because I always want to make sure that I address the we and not telling the I because that's what I go to the community and work with partners,
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders, which is we call the TDI partnership, and
Mm.
that I want to make sure that always is a resident, business owners,
Mm.
community leader. I mean, and that is part of the first observation. Who needs to be on the table
Mm.
to, like we said before, to
Mm-hmm.
take those decisions or solutions. And one of the, well, it's so many, but one of the ones that I feel proud was, you know, uh, going high to the COVID pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic time. I have, that moment was working in the area of Main South, and we all know that the most vulnerable
Mm.
small business was the one most affected
Mm-hmm.
by that. And that's when I noticed shut down. They didn't know anything. They never have access to resources. Many of them never navigate the website from the city. So at that time, there was a lot of grants coming
Mm-hmm.
too during that time and even after the pandemic. So we start to, I remember start to putting, and we create a WhatsApp chat group because in the I don't know again, but in the Latino community, WhatsApp.
Girl.
Hey, you tell me.
I'm from Jamaica. I am in way too many WhatsApp groups.
I think it's a Caribbean
It is.
issue, right?
It is.
In the Caribbean island. But I remember that was so many of our small business in that area was able to get that grant. I was like, again, that good feeling that you have. You say yes. Now many of them are in their own, and then others I start to notice that help each other to feel the grant because they didn't know for the language even.
Mm.
It was one of those moments that again, it was a sad moment that we were all struggle, but at the same time we see some good results. And one more just to say in terms of more personal was having somebody from that community that it's a small business, a resident, but she never know that kind of skills and ability that she had to be a leader. And
Mm.
I was able to kind of, if we can call mentor, and shape those skills. And now today she's represent the small businesses, the resident, and I watching her now. I don't work directly now, but watching her growth in that area, gosh, put my chest like this
Oh.
big because in terms of pride, and
Yes.
said, and is another passion that I had to see others shine too, right?
Absolutely.
And helping to give you that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think again a lot of infrastructure improvement that I have done, but that's what exactly mass development of TDI is not just buildings or the infrastructure, storefront. It's about the human capacity that we can have and shaping leadership. So
No, all right, thank you so much. So there's so much involvement, and you talk about inviting a lot of folks to the table. So how do you get community leaders or community members, I should say, involved in the decision making process? Like if they have hesitation, so what is it that we do to get them involved, or to even, because sometimes in marginalized communities, we have issues like, I don't want to vote because my vote doesn't matter, right? I'm not going to go to this meeting because nobody's going to listen to what I say. How do we encourage them and get them to come to the table to let them know that, yes, we really want to hear from you?
yeah, it is. That is so true. Or never mind when they said, "Oh, I spoke before I put my feet back, but never happened," right?
Absolutely.
And so when you go with those already foundation, it's hard, Suzanne. It is very hard. And this is when you need to be patient. You need to be compassionate, resilience, and be authentic about telling people, I am here not to promise anything. You need to, at least for me, I believe in that. Because again, a lot of people have deceptions of promises before and never happen.
Absolutely.
And I always trying to tell them, let's gonna try it again. And then, sometimes small steps could bring to big changes, And again, it's just speaking, listening, asking questions about their stories, about their family, how do you start your business, or how do your family, if it's an immigrant, how do you came here? When you ask a story, you immediately open a big path to, because they feel pride to talk about their food,
yes,
their favorite recipes, their families, and their venture, and that's probably one of the techniques that I would set. But
so it's a relationship built on authenticity and trust, showing up and active listening. And I can, in your role, it's absolutely needed.
Yes. And like I said, while you cannot satisfy everyone at one point, but for me, it's a moral responsibility to give you the opportunity to everyone, and always try to make that balance, and both sides.
No, absolutely. So you talk a lot about working with local organizations, and obviously local government is here, so you have to also work with them. Like, what role do you think local government should play in community development?
Well, I mean, they already are significant, body in our community, because they offer already, whether it's community engagement, when they do, like, example, a plan for a neighborhood or renovations and things like that. Obviously, they are kind of in charge, responsible about healthcare, education, infrastructure as well too, and create obviously a safe environment. And I work very close with, because part of that partnership is to involve the city. So, because without that involvement, it would be great. And I have to say, I am privileged that I have a great partner from the city, from the economic development, which is a basket. And we build a good relation. And he's like, okay, Basket, I need help for this business. What can we do? So, okay, let me just find out. Even sometimes a business owner is also a house owner, and they need other different things. So I feel the role overall it's very significant, and sometimes, it could be difficult for them because, again, I mean, they probably have lack of capacity and try to reach a large city. But, sometimes, it's big shoes to be in the municipality.
100%. Well, more power to them.
Yes, yeah.
Not for I, but more power to them. Well, no, thank you for that. So, I mean, again, and there's different organizations. There's the city, and there's mass development, and so many different organizations. And you talk about what it is that you do. What do you think we could do to, and from your perspective, of course, to foster better relationships and collaborations among the many different groups that are here? Because there's so many different groups, and sometimes I feel like they're not connected in terms of, like, I think we all have an agenda, but
Right.
if the agenda ultimately is for the betterment of the city and the folks that live within the city, the residents of the city, it tends to reason we would work together, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, what are some of the things you would recommend that would foster, better collaboration? Even those organizations that are just starting up, they're nonprofits, and they're like, well, how can I get connected and do that?
So, yeah. So again, I had that opportunity in my role to bring those agency, because you're right. A lot of time they work in their own agenda, whether it's to searching for a grant for X project. But actually, sometimes even the grants now, it's an opportunity to bring a lot of the grants are actually asking for collaborations and that. Which is, I feel, I love that approach, because that is exactly what it does. Bring 2-3 organizations to work together for the common, aspect. So it benefit the community that the 3 of them serve at the same time. So it's a good. So it's just about having, pulling those people and talk to them and bring, and that is part of the TDI. I'm not going over to a neighborhood and said, oh, hey, here I am to make changes. That's not what it is. So, okay, who's here? What organizations serve this community? Okay, hey, let's gonna get together once a month or every other month, depend. Let's gonna talk about what is the 5 main goals that we can really, but we're gonna start with community outreach to hear what are those needs that we talked before.
No, absolutely. So. And I think it's important. You're right. Like, if you just pop into a community, no matter if you have money, right? Like, you have money and resources, you pop in a community, it's like, hey, I'm here to solve all your problems. You can't solve everybody's problem. And then the community organizations that are already in there, like, are doing the work, whether they're successful or not, would feel slighted. And that's not the relationship that you would certainly want to have, right?
That's right.
All right. So, and this leads me to my next question. So, what are some of the strategies that you employ, you could encourage others to employ to resolve conflicts between different organizations?
So, and I took a couple courses about negotiation skill, which have been very productive. But you're trying to bring people that with different perspective, and my approach is not to find who's right or who's wrong. Let's gonna listen, both. Let's gonna listen each other, because then somehow, like we said before when we were talking about our families, we have things more, similar than the difference, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes a lot of the communities or organizations, sometimes they don't realize that. Instead of looking at the difference, let's gonna see what are the most common that we have here. And it's about those conflicts, about finding the common issue or matter that can work together, that is going to benefit you, it's going to benefit me, it's going to benefit the other person. But the most important is the people that live, that work, or patronize in somehow this neighborhood. So I think it's trying to find the safe, or I would say the mid, the midpoint, mid in the middle, and not to. And sometimes we have to lose that, that mindset of, no, I'm right, you're wrong. We have to find that middle point and just work together, because sometimes if we going back and forth, we never get any solution after all.
No, absolutely. Listen, compromise. I think sometimes we're not willing to compromise, and I believe I'm a cautious driver, and my daughter will say to me, like, you had the right of way, like, why did you stop? And I said, because I'd rather get home than be right.
That's right.
Let him go clearly he's late for something or she's late for something. But sometimes I'm driving us at the roundabout and I know I have the right of way. They don't stop. They just fly right through. And I'm like, I stop because I'm like, me being right, dead is not okay. Because
Exactly.
at the speed they're coming, I'm like, yeah, who knows what will happen. So, and I think sometimes we have to approach, challenges like that. It's like, I can be right, but where can we meet in the middle?
That's
I'd rather find a solution than be right.
Right. Yeah. Because other than that, we're spinning around and around and around, and nothing happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we want a resolution.
Exactly.
We need a resolution. I know that's a song.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I know earlier you mentioned, like sometimes like small movements, things like that could be deemed success. But what are some of how do you recognize success, or how do you deem something successful in your role? How can you determine that something is successful?
Interesting, right? Because everybody could define success in a different way. So depend the neighborhood, depend like you said, where you are into that point to define that success. But when I compare a neighborhood before and after a TDI, and you can see visible changes. But even like I mentioned before, even restore old decayed buildings and adding lining to the sidewalk to create more walkability and create a sense of safety, it's already a success to measure, because a lot of these neighborhoods have maybe historical stigma and people doesn't go because, that's,
there's a few, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is when this sometimes those physical changes start to kind of see, but mostly important is to highlight those assets that they have. Because trust me, they do have culture. They have stories or history, I will say, inside a lot of this community that even personal I didn't know. And when you start to discover, it's like digging and find diamonds there. And I said, oh my God, they do. And when you start to, again, for us, it's just to helping them to highlight to the entire world, here's our history. And, changing that perception, it's already, again, success. But, and we do surveys, obviously, all the traditional method, getting surveys and questions, but a lot of communities are overwhelmed about survey.
I know.
I don't know what you think it. And sometimes you have to find a balance, too, because it's like you said, okay, I've been told, it said, another survey? What is going to happen if I put my opinion, what is going to happen? So it's very important.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's a message for me now that even when you do a survey, to really have a clear goal that what is going to happen with this information. Because this is, again, where a lot of people kind of start to disengage from when you were talking why voting or why being on the table, because all this information, then for what? We need to be clear when we do surveys that, not do false promise, but, execute what you're going to accomplish. But yeah, like I said, numbers are important because we need data, right? Without data, you don't have no proof about.
Nope. Data is important.
It is important. So we do, as in my role, is just to collecting data of how much resources in terms we have putting in the neighborhood, and even other private investment, the city investment. So all that collective, it's also a data that we collect to see, okay. And obviously, last but not least is that the sustainability of this work. Because having something, you finish 3 years and then go back to the same, it would be a waste, right?
100%.
So for us, it's very important to work in that sustainability plan. What is after not having a fellow or TDI, neighborhood? But the idea was that those partnerships that you and I talk, how they can continue to work together now.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up sustainability, because my next question is going to be around is there any particular resources or organization that you would encourage community partners and community leaders to connect to? Because that keyword there, sustainability, you think about a marriage, being a parent, or even having a car, it's like you don't decimate your partner, right? You don't put your kids and speak down to them, and or your car, like if you ignore the check engine light and don't change the tires and things like that. So all of these things, I think everything that you do, if you want this thing for the long term, you have to give maintenance, right? You have to speak kindly to your partner. You have to nurture your kids. You have to love your kids. You have to give them room to grow. You have to take care of your car. So I think as you going into communities, you come in, you're big and shiny, right? You're right. You have to teach them, how do we duplicate success? And how do we eliminate the things that didn't work? So sustainability, I think, is important. Again, which leads me to the next question, which is any particular resources or organization you would encourage community partners and leaders to connect to?
Well, I feel that Worcester actually itself is rich in a lot of resources. Sometimes it's about asking even nonprofit, especially during these times, small nonprofits rise, right? And many terms. So a lot of resources. Even the Worcester Chamber, they provide a lot of roundtables about teaching, even knowing the finance or how to fundraising actually for nonprofit, because that's what the core that they sustain it. So there's a lot of organizations and a lot of resources here, depend obviously the need. But the most important is, like we said, stay together. Before you know each other, but you wasn't working to a common ground for everything. Now we've been doing this for 3 years. I mean, they'll hopefully continue, because there's other resources can come. And like you said, the greatest foundation, sometimes they have grants for community projects, but they looking for collaboration.
Absolutely.
So those are, I would say that, top in those are a lot of resources, but they are here. I mean, we have the Worcester Business Resource Alliance. That's another group with all these business organizations that provide support at all capacity for small business, whether you are a startup or whether you are growing your business. It depends. So it's you have to navigate a little bit, but they are. I feel very proud that Worcester have a lot of good tools, resources, but we still need to find them. But we do have great things here.
Oh, absolutely. I do believe that it has great things in Worcester, great resources. I think one of the biggest challenge I continue to see is how to get the information to all the people that the resources are here. Because sometimes, the folks that need it sometimes don't know about it. So we're going to have to get the message out, different forum, different platforms, because I think everyone has an audience, right?
That's right.
Everyone has an audience. There's at least 5 people in your circle that you can share information with, and they have 5 people. So we just got to get used to being in different spaces and sharing the different resources.
Yeah,
right?
That's about right. Yeah, and that's what's important. Social media too. Every time that I see a good resource, a good show like this, it's about share.
Absolutely.
Share. I mean, it's the best that you can do. I mean, it's not the perfect just sharing of them, but it's like you said. At one point, it's gonna get to. If before was only 100 people, now probably 300 people, right?
Absolutely, and that's all we can do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, leads to my next question. How do you see the community evolving in the next few years? Do you kind of have an idea based on what you're seeing happening, or?
Well, I mean, definitely, I always continue to see the population growth. And at least talking in here in Worcester, which is, outspacing the housing, availability. We also see other issues like big supermarket chains closing. And that kind of create probably, obviously, job losses and insecurity of food and a lot of those neighborhoods that was a big chain supermarket. Now there's nothing, so it's just kind of, but at the same time, regardless challenges, we always see opportunities. I mean, you see new businesses that rise and that have, aspiration, and you see all these great organizations that I am blessed to be part of a mentor at E4O.
Yes.
And you see all this passion. So again, challenges, but at the same time, open opportunity for all the new organizations that tap this food insecurity, that helping people to make sure that every family have a food, on the table. So I know there's a lot of things, a lot of fears to changes or the impact that can cause. So it's kind of hard to see where, but I mean, we already went through a pandemic, and which is actually you see the opportunity for me for that was putting people together more to help each other, be more sensitive to a resilience. So I think this is Worcester is strong, and I think whatever come in or face it, I mean, if we work together, probably it's more chance to kind of overcome.
Absolutely. I see so many great organizations that are, in Worcester that I know that will continue to grow. EBS with Mari Gonzalez, the Wellstorm with Carla de la Cruz, the Villa. Like, there's so many. I know I'm missing somebody. I shouldn't have called names. I wasn't gonna. But you mentioned food insecurity, and those two are my top of mind. But now I'm like trying to think, so I'm not gonna call any more names. But just know there's so many fantastic organizations that I truly believe in. As you mentioned, collaboration is so important because if we're facing the same challenges, or there's like unhoused, food insecurity and mental health issues and all of that, if you're able to collaborate and create something, you could certainly impact more lives. So I certainly believe that there's more of that coming in the future.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned about the mental health. I see that more stress release workshop into those, again, going back to a vulnerable neighborhood that need most, or they don't know those resources. So I see that more evolving, and we need more of that in the future. Yes,
100%. Even coming here to the studio tonight, just a young man like just walked in the middle of the road, and then there was this young lady, she was dancing, and just and you could tell that they and it's just like it was just like I look, and there was just several, and it was just like I'm like, Lord, I just say a prayer, because I think whenever I see something like that, I'm like, there but the grace of God, right?
Amen.
Because I think we never know what the future holds. I've known folks that had mental health challenges in their youth, and they got older and got better. I know folks that were well together, graduated college top, great grades, and now are facing unhoused and mental health issues, and it's like you just never know what the future holds. So I was like, when you see folks, like for me, it's an opportunity to pray for them and to truly help them if you can, and truly just be thankful, because we never know what it is that can happen.
Absolutely.
That could change our brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic caused a lot of people to kind of just have challenges. So
that's right.
We just gotta be grateful.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned a good point, Suzanne, that I hear you. Mental health doesn't respect your economic status or your, background, a professional, nothing. That doesn't respect. And it was just so important about that. And your spiritual point is, I mean, we all faces a lot of stress this moment. And when people ask me, well, I guess worries, sorry, but for me, my faith has been really hold me, that there is going to be a better place one day, and it's 100%. Going to be better.
Absolutely. That's hope, girl.
Yes.
That's hope. All right. So I do want to ask, so what advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming a community leader? How would you advise them to start?
Well, first of all, show up. Show up to all those great events that community have. I started, like I said, I mean, it doesn't matter what your position, but I involved in Earth Day, cleaning neighborhoods, sometimes as a volunteer. Let them participate in their community things, but you need to start to show up. and be volunteer in something, or even one of those nonprofit, and try to be part of those network. But I also, for me, it's always very important for me personally was having always role models around you, mentors, people that you can talk, people that have been done that. But to be a great leader, you have to be humble, first of all. You have to be humble and be present. I believe in to be a leader in the community, you have to be with them. They have to see you there in action. And you have to be going back to the listening. And I in my role, somebody had to sacrifice them, but I have to eat in every single small restaurant.
That is a sacrifice.
Yes, as you can see, right?
The horror.
That's the hard part, but hey,
somebody's got to do it.
Somebody has
Somebody's
to
got to
do
do
it.
it.
Use their service. You know, support the small business and where they see, and that's exactly what I do. I try every kind of food.
Yes.
Every kind of hairdresser, name it. I cannot be. And that I am very loyal to work and to a project you assign me. But in terms of hairstyle, I cannot be loyal to one because I have to spread that love.
Okay. Well, I love the hair. I love the hair, by the way. I love the new look and everything. Thank you. So I know, and we haven't even gotten a chance to truly go into the personal, but I want to ask one more question because I think, you know, your role in the community is so important. And I want to ask one more question. How can us as community members support you in your efforts and initiatives and the things that you do?
Oh, thank you. So even, I mean, when we do events recently, last year and this fall, we did a food truck for the first time in a vacant lot. So we want to activate the lot, bring people together. So when people show to these events, it's actually a way to support it. I mean, because when you do something with pride and emotion, nothing better, right? To have a full house.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
You know, and again, fine, and you can reach out to me for any volunteer. You know, we have a community center in the Pleasant Street that work specific with youth from that community. We have all the programs, and a lot of time they need volunteers to help with that. So yeah, I always appreciate it, everyone in any capacity, you know, but I understand, like we speak before, I understand totally that you cannot be everywhere and you cannot support everyone. You cannot go to all the events as much as you want unless you kind of duplicate yourself in a different.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes we want it, right?
Sometimes we do. Sometimes there's so many events in one night and I'm like, there's no way to do it all. So thank you. Well, you know, when you do the event, we will absolutely show up. So thank you for all that you do, you know, and I know that you do it through your work, but I think that it has to be in you, the way you show up in spaces, the way that you support the community, the way that you connect others to resources, the way that you offer your time, which is your most valuable resource, and help others. So I just want you to know that the community appreciates all that you do, and we just want to say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you to you. That kind of word mean a lot. And yes, I am here to anything that I can support you as well. But I love what I do, and you're absolutely, it's about passion.
It shows. All right.
Thank you.
So we are running out of time, but I never end without asking about self-care. So community work, intentional, can be heartbreaking, can be overwhelming. You know, because again, our job is to find solutions, but not even we, because I'm not putting myself in the same category as you, but you know that there truly isn't a solution that can make everyone happy, right?
That's right.
So there are moments that we can take things to heart because what we want to do, we cannot do based on resources, capacity, infrastructure, money, all sorts of things. So what are you doing for self-care for Ivette?
Well, I go for a walk.
Okay.
And I go for a walk to refresh, you know, again, and I try to use our public park. And that is the moment. There's a time that I walk with a friend, but there's a time that Ivette needs to walk by herself. And that's the time for me, you know, to reflect. And obviously we talk about the little things about doing your nails and doing a nice blow dryer, but honestly sometimes you nailed that. There's been in this work sometimes that I wish I could have a checkbook with a lot of money and help a small business because it's not enough. And sometimes break your heart and you feel, oh, I wish I could have more to give it to them, but it is hard sometimes to detach to that personal that you just mentioned. But yeah, I mean, and obviously for me, as I said, praying, my faith in God, and reading the Bible, but reading a good book also actually it's a kind of healing for me and
Wonderful.
relax.
All right, thank you so much. And then final question, bucket list country that you want to visit.
Oh,
Easy question.
that was easy, especially that recently that I went to Portugal, but I want to go to yeah, I know that it's you want one, right? Because I have few, but I want to go to Guatemala. It's
Okay.
more related about self-care, natures, and things, in that. I never been in Guatemala. Again, no idea into that area, but also in Europe, I want to go to Switzerland.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I see those beautiful mountains
Yes.
and things. It's curious, but
Okay.
yeah.
All
yeah.
right. Well, it's
that
on your
fair?
bucket list. Put it there. You never know. It's going to
Yeah.
happen one day.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for saying yes, and thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge. And I know that our audience watching truly learned a lot listening to you. So thank you.
Thank you to you, Suzanne, for that opportunity. I appreciate you too.
No problem. Thank you. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm Positively Suzanne. I think you all know that. For those that are tuned in on YouTube, on the Positive Vibe Studio, on Facebook, on the Positively Suzanne. And I have to give a shout out to our executive producer, Paul Anderson, who makes the magic happen week after week. We appreciate you. And again, it's an opportunity for me to talk to so many wonderful folks in the community and in the Commonwealth that are truly making an impact. And, in a time that we need hope, I'm just humbled to get to talk to so many folks that offer hope. So tune in next week for a brand new episode at 6 p.m. And until then, this is Positively Suzanne and
Ivette Olmeda.
bye.
Bye.
Just keep talking. I'm gonna just leave the video running. There's no audio.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Very good. I know, I was like, no, it was good. It was good. I tried to go down all the questions. I didn't finish the last 3 because I'm like, we're out of time. But it's okay. I think most of what you answered, so I'm like, well, you didn't even need your paper. But most of everything that you answered was highlighted. Some of them, you answered basic. I think the only one I didn't ask was how you leverage technology.